Hello and welcome to AMS2's King of Buskerud, and today we will be looking at the track layout as well as looking at the first of the Copa Classics to see if they can be crowned king. To kick things off, we are going to have a look through the track layout of the Buskerud kart track long, and I have spent the last week trying to find a detailed map with all of the corner namings. Lo and behold, I have failed to come up with one, so I thought, why not do one myself? Buskerud starts off with a fairly short run from the start-finish line to the inventively named first corner, Turn 1. Turn 1 is a flat-out right-hander that takes you up the hill towards Helter Skelter, which is a sharp left-hander with an uphill braking zone. You now have a bit of a straightaway as you head down towards Red House, which brings you onto the Lakeside chicane complex. Lakeside's a little bit tricky and can lose the back end, but you need to make sure you get your braking zone right for the grandstand. Coming out of grandstand, you'll take a right-hand kink into the 180, and from here you will cut across into the Forest chicane. The Forest chicane goes uphill and turns into the Summit hairpin, which then nicely cascades down through Cascades as you head to the bottom part of the circuit. Cascades flows into the estate, which is a long gradual right-hander that brings you across into Renato, which is a combination of a braking right-hander and a chicane. A quick run out of Renato brings you into Boulders, which is an uphill left-hander that brings you up onto the brow as you head in towards the last corner, the wind farm, before you are finally back onto the home straight known as Pit Row. We will be doing an onboard track walkthrough at the end of the video with today's fastest car, so stick around for that one. Hopefully you guys have taken whatever screenshots you need of the map and the corner names, and we're gonna crack on with the action. Today we are kicking things off with the VW Fusca, or otherwise known as the VW Beetle. This is a brilliant little car in AMS2, one of my favourite front wheel drive vehicles, and it sounds and looks absolutely cracking driving round this track. It does have a little bit of a tendency to light up the inside wheel when coming out of corners. It's something you need to be a little bit wary of, not to overburn those tyres. Okay, heading up into 180 now. My hope is that the nimbleness of the Fusca will help it get round that very tight hairpin as it heads up into the forest. Down the hill, nice and easy, heading into the Summit hairpin. Again, the nimbleness should help it round this tighter section of track. Little bit sideways going out of the Summit as it headed down into Cascades, coming round into the estate. Braking for Renato, really tricky corner to keep your line under braking. Quick jumping over the curbs through the second part of Renato as we head left into the boulder. Heading up now onto the brow as we approach the final couple of corners, turning into the wind farm and crossing the line in a time of 1 minute 15.938. So next up we have the Puma GTB. Now this is a car I haven't driven before, and it's a car that I will definitely go back to. It is absolutely hilarious. It's such an old feeling retro car. Not huge amounts of power, but plenty to have a lot of fun around a small track like this. Coming through the first sector, it is nearly 0.7 of a second up. I do have a feeling that most of that is from the hairpin, where the Fusca struggled to get out in any audible fashion. Definitely lighting up the rear tyre on the inside again for this car with its open diff. Flying through the forest, a little bit of back end skipping around here and there, some nice curb taking around the Summit, heading down to Cascades. The Cascades causes rear wheel cars quite a lot of problems, but this one appears to be under control. Similarly, first part of Renato is also quite tricky for these rear wheel drive cars. Plenty of sideways action coming out of this Puma GTB, absolutely fantastic fun to drive. Coming over the brow, round into the final set of corners, through the wind farm, and we're crossing the line in a 1:14.879. So now let's quickly have a look where these two cars stack up on our leaderboard, and as you can see, they both slipped in behind the Formula Trainer and the Rocco. No huge surprise here, but no crowning of a king just yet. As promised earlier on in the video, here is a track guide on board the Puma GTB. Flat out round the right-hander of turn 1, hard brake into the helter-skelter. Just need to be careful of the tail coming out of there. Turning into Red House, it's a little bit easy to run wide, you'll lose your lap if you do. Braking down into Grandstand, again you need to watch your traction coming out of here, slightly uphill, slightly slippery. About to turn into 180, you need to give yourself as much room as possible to get round that hairpin in one piece. Coming up into the forest, this is quite slippery. You also have a blind apex on that left hand side. Careful of the traction going up into the summit, and you've got a blind turn-in point here. You can hardly see where the cascade starts. The cascade is notoriously problematic for rear-wheel drive cars, so give it some respect as you put your foot on the throttle. Braking down into Renato, you'll be trail braking all the way through and then flooring it out of that chicane. Get the chicane right, you can take it absolutely flat. Coming around boulders, again you've got a little bit of a crest where you want to be applying the power and the back end can get light, but overall you're all good, and you now want to maximize your traction out of Wind Farm to get across the line around the wonderful Buskerud. Thank you to all those who stayed this far into the video, and in the coming weeks we have the P4 category as well as the first of the GT3s challenging to be crowned the King of Buskerud.